computer. Okay, we're recording. Okay.
You always remember, so that's the better part right there.
That's true. Eventually I remember, so hit record. Okay, so the agenda that I have today is just kind of, I'm going to explain kind of how we got to this point, and then I'll go over the agenda. So we've talked about dōTERRA's empowered success system, which is the live, share, build, launch, all of those guides. And then we started talking about the daily mentor calls and the oil games and all of that stuff that has recently kind of become mainly, I guess you'll say mainstream, popular, people learning about it and sharing about it. But it is much more specific. There's like a detailed point for each day. You can get a different task and stuff like that, which is nice. Sorry. You know, there are just different options. And so when I transitioned to kind of using the daily mentor call system, I started to realize that they are still pretty much the same. It's just that one is like very bullet pointed, step by step, and then the other is just like, this is the general structure of how we do things. So for the last several years, I've been using the dōTERRA Empowered Success System. So I am more familiar with it and therefore more comfortable with it. And so I've kind of just kept my energy there. But I am pulling in the daily mentor call stuff because it's good stuff and it makes sense and you can just kind of weave it in. So when you go through the, let me grab it here, the dōTERRA launch guide, which is the basically the guide that brings you through, looks like this, and it brings you through the live, share, and build guide. But you use this book to kind of track all three of those other guides. So the first thing in here that they want you to do is the lifestyle overview, which I have done for myself. Like, you know, every now and then I'll kind of go back and try to redo it every year or so. And then the other day when I was trying to do mine, I kept like stopping. I would like get going with it and then be like, oh, this is hard, or I don't feel like doing this or whatever. And I came up with 1,000 excuses not to finish it. And then a couple days ago, I was like, I've had enough. This is ridiculous. I'm doing something about this. And so I sat down and did it, and it took me like 5 minutes. So if you guys haven't already done that for yourself and you're running into the same issue like I did of just not feeling like you're doing it right and therefore not wanting to do it, I will do it for you. I need the practice anyway. So if you want, even if you don't need it, but you kind of just want one to see if there's new things that come up or whatever, I will gladly practice on you. And then if you want to practice on me, I would love to receive one from you. So just reach out to me privately and say, I want one, and we'll get that going. So that is page 16 in the live guide. And then the next step after you do that for yourself or receive it is the share guide. And so we're going to go through at least 4 of the pages in the share guide that are going to help you basically get to where you can do what you just did for yourself, or I did for you, or we did for each other, for your friends in the share guide. So I'm going to grab this share guide here. And I took this little guy for granted because it doesn't, I mean, it's only like 8 pages and, you know, everything in here is probably covered in one of the other ones. So I kind of took it for granted. But when I sat down after doing my lifestyle overview and poured over this guide, I realized that it's loaded with great content and it really is a great bridge before you're ready for the build guide, because the build guide is where you're not only getting ready to grow your business, but bring on other builders ultimately. And you may not feel like you're ready for that until you feel like you've gotten proficient at the sharing part. So back to the agenda. We're going to go over, I'm just going to read these through and then we're going to actually go and look at them. So page 2 is the, there's a place right here for 20 names. So that's like kind of the shortest list that you've gotten, that you'll have so far to get you started with the names. And then as you move through the guides, the list gets bigger and bigger. So in the build guide, there's a spot for 30 names. So you take your 20 and you kind of get going, and then you move them over to that one and then kind of expand on that. And then ultimately you end up with your big names list, which, you know, they recommend having 100 names on, and then always continuing to add and take away names. So page 2 is your names list. It has 20 names, and they give you a little spot for your plan. Are you going to move in the direction of trying to get them, offer them a one-on-one, or trying to get them to a class? So that you have a place to kind of separate out your list there. And then page 3 is full of different scripts. So you've got sharing scripts, like kind of figuring out if they're open. The inviting, which is like after they've had a sample, you're going to invite them to learn more, whether that's a one-on-one or a class, and they give you some scripts and guidelines there. And then the third step is reminding them to come, and again, they give you scripts for that. This is great. And there's even a section down here for sharing the business when you're ready for that. And they don't pressure you to do that before you're ready, which is really great. Because the last thing you want to do is, you know, what do they say? The cart before the horse. Okay, page 3, that was page 3. Page 5 is the next one I want to go over. And this is where you actually have a space to write out your story. And they give you some prompts, some questions that kind of help you come up with how that might look when you go to share your story. And then the last one in this section, this book that I want to go over, is page 6, where it actually helps you to understand the difference between who's appropriate for a one-on-one versus who's appropriate for a class. So if you're not sure and they're not really sure, or you don't really know how to approach them, you can come here for some tips for how to do that. Okay, and then we have a few things, if we have time, that I want to go over, but that's not the priority. I want to get through this because I want to get to where I want to get some classes scheduled. I'm ready. I know, like last week I was like, I don't feel ready, but that's changed somehow. You know, when you get going, it suddenly becomes easy and fun. So, okay, now I'm going to share screen, and we're going to go over the guidebook so you can see what I'm talking about. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. All right. If you do, just like raise your hand or type it in the chat box or something. Okay. So we know about the lifestyle overview, and we know that if you want, you know, help on that, or if you just want somebody else to do it with you, just ask and we will do it. Okay. And then, so this is the share guide. Let me go to the top so you can see. This is the real pretty blue one. I think you can order this on your LRP, and they're probably about $1. And then if you want to order a bundle of them, you can get like a 10-pack for a couple bucks, or a 20-pack or whatever, you know, depending on how many you want. This is great to give to potential hosts. Like if somebody wants to invite people to a class and have you come and teach, this is a great guide to give them. But if you don't go over it with them, they're just going to be like, that's a lot of words. So you got to go over it with them if you want them to actually, you know, look at it. So kind of this is great because it kind of breaks up the different reasons why you might like to share. And a lot of people are going to be more than one, but usually there's one in particular that's really driving you. And it helps to have that clarity so that you know where you stand and what's kind of the vibe that you want to make sure that you are coming back to. Like, what's the priority? And it does scale. This one is more of a person who wants to get their products paid for, or just, you know, sharing with friends and maybe get some free products. This one is more like, you know, you want to start to make some money and get your, you know, it says earn free products. And then this one is more like builder. You want to build a business and replace income and create income. Okay. So anyway, you want to take the names that come to mind that are people that you want to share with, right? And I just, you know, wrote out the first 20 names that felt right for me. And then I haven't done this yet, but I'm going through, I've probably done about half of it and decided based on page 6 what felt like it was the most appropriate. And some of these I don't know, and so I have to talk to them to find out, right? Okay, so then, yeah, so then page 3, a little too far. Okay, so this is probably going to sound kind of familiar if you have been practicing the scripts from the daily mentor calls. I'm gonna make this a little bigger so y'all can see. There we go. All right, so let's see. So are you open to trying something natural? This is that discovery of whether or not they're interested. So it starts out by saying to make your sharing relevant by asking questions to discover their health priorities during ordinary conversation. So I'm going to do two things right here. Patrice, I'm going to use you as an example since we talked the other day and I learned so much from you. I'm going to share what I learned from you with these girls. So Patrice was talking about a lady that or maybe it was herself, but I think it was someone else, who had discovered spearmint is really, really great for incontinence. And I've been doing this for years and I've never heard that before. So I was like, okay, I got to write that down and tell some people. So my point of saying that Patrice brought that up is she thought of someone who needed that help. And the only way that she would have known that they needed that help was from talking to them in regular conversation, because it's a friend of hers. It's someone that she knows. You're not going to have a stranger on the sidewalk talking to you about something like that, obviously. It's only going to come through relationship. Even if it's, a relationship with someone who is coming to you for advice on their health, it's still a person that you know and feel comfortable talking to about that kind of stuff with. So to that point, I guess what I'm trying to say, you're not just going to sit down with somebody and be like, so do you have incontinence? I know what you can do for that, right? You're going to be talking to them, and it may take several conversations before they really reveal anything that you can hone in on that's like a real health thing. So, at first you might just be talking to people about lighter things like, not to say that not sleeping well is light, but it is something that is more comfortable to talk about. So if that's where you help them to discover that the oils work, great. Work with that and then build that relationship from there. So, and then it gives you a little example. It says, share experience and how the products have helped you. So the script is, well, how we struggled with ... We've loved how doTERRA essential oils have helped us with so many different things. So that probably sounds familiar to the Daily Mentor Call script where she says, I've been thinking about you lately. I've been loving essential oils, and here's an example, and this is why I thought of you. So then the next one is ask permission to share a sample or story. So I love this question. I'm just curious, are you open to trying something natural for that? Usually people say yes, but I have had people blatantly say no. And I'm like, okay, well, now I know that you're not open, and I don't have to worry about making sure that I have a sample around when I'm around you so I can give it to you because you don't want it. Let's see. If I give you a sample, will you give it a try? And that's really important to ask that question directly, because if you just say, here's a sample, they haven't told you if they want it, you may be wasting your time and your money. And they may feel like you're being weird if they don't want it. And then the other really important element, this is about asking questions and getting permission. Get permission to follow up within 48 hours and get contact info. And the reason this is so important is because if you say, is it okay if I call you in 2 days to find out how that's working for you? And they say yes, then you've made a commitment to them. And if you don't hold up to your end of the deal, that's on you. They've given you permission to call. So you don't get to be like, oh, I'm going to bother them like we like to do, right? We like to tell ourselves that we're bothering people. But if you've already asked for permission and they've confirmed that they expect that you're going to call them to follow up, you're just doing what you said you would do, which feels way better than being like, oh, I know I said I gave them that sample and I need to follow up on them, but so you just say, is it okay if I call you back? Or what's the best number to call or text you? I really like that one because in the past I have said, would it be better for me to call or text you? And then they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. So then if you say, what's the best number to call or text you? Typically the response is, oh, here's my number, you can just call. Or here's my number, you can just text. And right then they've let you know what their preferred communication is. just with that, what's the best number to call or text you? And of course, if this is someone that you have their phone number to, there's a good chance that you know what their preferred communication is anyway, because you've been communicating with them. Okay, so then you go to step 2, which is inviting to a presentation. And it basically is, are you open to learning more? And you're not saying, are you open to learn more about anything in particular? It could be how to purchase, it could be how to share with others, it could be how to build the business. Depending on the conversation, you're just trying to discover if they are open to learning more. These are all really good tips. I think it's pretty obvious, but it's still a good tip to kind of just keep on your mind, right? Personalizing your invitations. We never want to feel spammy. We don't want to be like, hey girl, I'm having this party, you should come, I think you'll love it. Love Brittany. Like, that's not personal. They're going to know that you sent that to 40 other people and probably not going to respond to you. So obviously you want to customize it and tell them why you think they would want to be there. So they give you some tips on how to do that. And it's important to pause and listen. That's the hardest part, is to just kind of go for sometimes uncomfortable amounts of time while they just figure out what they want to say. You know, we're so eager, we want to just like hurry up and get all the information to them, but you know, we call that fire hosing. And it doesn't feel good to you or them. Okay, so, and then they give you options, like if they're new to essential oils, here's, you know, some different things you can say. If they previously experienced essential oils, you just can say, like, are you open to learning more about oils, or more about doTERRA, or more about lavender, or whatever it is. And then here's another one for getting permission to remind them. If you forget to ask for permission, it's not that big of a deal, but it feels way better, like way better, when you remind them. If you've said something like, if you're like me, you appreciate being reminded, how about I give you a quick reminder before the class? And it could just be a text, you know, 2 days beforehand and then the day of. And they're going to appreciate that because you've already kind of given them the perspective of why. And I love that, if you're like me, you're not saying like, I bet you need to be reminded. you're just, you know, if you're like me, you probably would appreciate being reminded. But okay, if I send you a text before the class, something like that. And then of course, again, avoid inviting through mass emails, texts, or Facebook invites. And that's just because it doesn't feel personal. And then I don't know about you guys, but when I first heard this statistic, it totally made sense to me. Most people do not actually decide whether or not they are going to attend an event until a couple of hours beforehand, when they need to like start getting ready. And the ticket to helping people to stay more on the committed side is them knowing that they've told someone they're going to be there, and that person is going to be there waiting to see them. And so by sending them a reminder a couple of days ahead of time, you're kind of, I mean, it's just like anything, you're confirming their interest, and they are confirming with you, so you know that they're interested. And then a couple of hours beforehand is really nice, because that just is a reminder and a way of keeping them excited about it. Because, you know, with time passing, we tend to be like, what was that about again? Why did I want to do that again? Unless you have it like in writing and you can go back and be like, oh yeah, this is the thing that I'm wanting to attend, or someone is excited about seeing you there. Those are usually the things that get people to commit more, you know, fully. And here's a script for that those 2 reminders. I think it says 48 hours and then 2 to 4 hours prior. And then Laura Ritchie actually sends a 15-minute reminder. I have been guilty of like 2 hours before something, especially if it's online and I'm at my house, like, you know, cleaning or cooking or whatever. And just like, next thing I know, like, oh man, I'm late. That thing started 20 minutes ago. I guess it's too late. I'm not going to go. Which doesn't feel good, because it is something that I wanted to do. And then of course that person who put all that effort into reminding me probably feels like, well, why did I even bother? So getting all of those steps in is going to make you more successful, but don't be mad at yourself if you don't do it perfect. Okay, So any questions? Okay, we're gonna go to page 5. Now I'm gonna read y'all my story. I'm gonna get down here. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna zoom back out because I can't read it all. Use the cameras to minimize here. Okay, whoop. All right, so they give you some sampling tips here, and then different kind of suggestions for how to navigate that response after they've had it. Are they having a positive experience? This is what you want to do. Negative experience or no result. They give you, a direction to go here. And then if they just didn't try it, they also have solutions there. I love this. Super simple, but it's great. Okay, now share your story. Okay, it says be prepared to share your own story about why essential oils are important to you. Take the time to write out and remember your answers to the following questions. These are things that I talk about all the time. Oh, wow, it's different online. There's 5 questions on here. Mine only has 3. I'm just going to read mine to y'all, though. So the first question is, what led you to doTERRA? What concerns were you or your loved ones dealing with? What frustrations did you experience due to those concerns? So we all have our story of how we got started, and it's different for each of us, but your story is your story and won't change. So once you kind of get that written out and you can practice it and practice it and practice it, you have it. You don't have to redo it all the time. You have it, and it will just get better and better. So in summary, short and sweet, I just said, primarily for me, I was seeking low tox options to replace my smell good products. I love smell good stuff. I mean, I was all about, Bath and Body Works and Victoria's Secret body spray and lotions and bubble baths and all that kind of stuff. So for me, choosing to let go of those things was, a big direction change, I'll say. Like from as far back as I can remember, I've just been obsessed with Bath and Body Works and all that kind of stuff. Now when I go by that store, it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a headache if I hang out by the store too much. Hurry up, let's get past it. So I was looking for those options, but if you look more to the things I needed a solution for, I was struggling with basically a lifelong problems with my ears, and then a lot of sleep struggles, which if I'm not diligent on both of those, even to this day, they get out of hand really quickly. So that was what led me to doTERRA, and those were my concerns, and my frustrations due to those concerns. So then next one is the question I just did is in here. It's just stated differently. It says, what wasn't working for you? How long had it been going on? What problems were created as a result? It's kind of similar, just different phrasing. What positive experiences have you had with the products? So that's this question. What kind of results did you experience? How they changed your life? So I talked about my ear blend and then my diffuser blends for getting better sleep and then waking up, because I also struggle with that. And how I have had great results, like amazing results that I just didn't even realize was possible, or how badly I needed it until I was getting it. So the other thing that I will speak to is how I really enjoy the craft of creating things, DIY type of stuff, whether it's cleaning products or making my own personal care. Like when I first started, doTERRA didn't have a deodorant, and I couldn't find, like when I first started, natural deodorants was barely even a thing. And so I just made my own and it worked great. I was amazed. And then, I love to make like roller bottles and spray bottles for people. So it really gave me an outlet for that, like creativity and that satisfaction of actually creating something, like having something that I made from other things with my own special, love and attention. Okay, and then the last question on mine, it says, how have doTERRA products changed your life? What was it like before? What is life like now? So again, these questions are just stated differently, but they're the same. It says, I used to reach for the typical over-the-counter store-bought chemical products that weren't safe for lifelong use. Now I feel empowered and enthusiastic about the products I get to reach for every day. Like I'm genuinely excited to open that bottle of lavender when I'm getting ready to go to bed. Whereas, I used to just didn't think anything about popping a Tylenol PM a couple times a week, which could not be good for you. I mean, I don't think anybody would debate that that's a good thing, right? Okay. So writing out these things is part of every program, part of the pre-leap program, part of the Empowered Success, which is what this is, as well as Elise Chedevy's, both of hers. Doing these stories is core to your business, so I would encourage you to do it. And if you want to practice them, you have an audience. We can totally do that. And it feels good once you get to where you feel like you know what you're going to say and you can just speak about it. It feels good to talk about it. Like you feel more confident. Okay, and then the last thing in this guide that we want to talk about is how to differentiate which path to put people on for that sharing part. So back to page 2 when we did the names list, and then it has those 2 columns for one is for a one-on-one and the other is for a class, that you would apply this information to that list. So here it says for a one-on-one, which is an in-person on a call, 3-way is preferred. So like if you had somebody that you wanted to share with in a like class type of information, it really works well if you can make it more like a 3-way conversation. So you can bring me in, you can bring Becky in, you can bring anybody can help you with that. Or of course you can do like webinars and Zoom and stuff like that. But the 3-way option is really great because for like the call, if you have to do it on the phone, because they have not only you telling them the things that you have been sharing with them, but that external third party kind of social proof comes in when you bring in another person. And then it doesn't feel like you're the only one that's talking to them about this. They're getting, someone else. I'm more confident telling them what needs to be said because I don't know them very well, if at all. And I can just kind of go through the information. And thankfully I am sensitive enough that I can read people pretty well, even if I barely know them. So it's nice to have that external help. And then of course you might learn something too, which is nice. And then like I said, I learn from you guys all the time. So I like to be included because I like to learn. Okay. So these are some of the examples of why a one-on-one might be best. So they live outside of your area and you can just mail them a sample. They're just less available and you need to work around their schedule. And this is very common. Like, oh, I can't make it to that class. So you just say, okay, well, how's Tuesday at 2 o'clock or Wednesday at 4 o'clock or whatever. And it is good to give them 2 options. And then, or of course, if they're like, well, this is the time I have available, if that works for you, then go for it. Or a lot of times people prefer a more one-on-one connection because they don't want to talk about their business in front of everybody, or they feel weird in crowds, or it's coronavirus or whatever. And then of course, if they have potential to be a builder prospect, it's a really great idea to do a one-on-one because you can move. If they're a builder prospect, there's probably a reason. It's probably because they've already done business and you think they can catch on to this stuff a lot quicker, or maybe they don't have a whole lot of time to sit down and do a class plus have that builder conversation. So you can kind of, navigate that according to the person. And if you're not sure, again, come and ask and I'll help you figure out what's your best option. But I want you to do what feels best, not what is gonna, serve me best or anything like that. And so if they don't fit into this category, the other appropriate option is a group class, which there are lots of classes happening around us, like Angela's webinars and Laura's webinars and stuff like that. But we're going to get our own going here very soon. Better go soon. Okay, and then they give you just kind of guides for preparation. If you do this with all of your people, your business will blow up, I promise. Like I can promise you, it has never not worked. And if it's not working, it's just because you need to tweak it some. And I'll say this. I don't know if you guys know who Alice Nichols is. She has her brand is The Whole Daily. She has a podcast, Instagram, everything, website. What she talks about is there are, let's say, 1,000 ways to do doTERRA. And if you choose a path and go on that and it doesn't work and you've done everything right and it's just not working, it's not because that method doesn't work, it's that it doesn't work for you. So try something different. Like, I have found that I prefer face-to-face meeting with people one-on-one. That's my favorite way to do this. And I have the most success with that, but it goes a little slower because I'm not, teaching in front of 5 to 10 people 2 to 3 times a week like Janice used to do. She was awesome and was just like classes galore. That's probably why I feel like I'm never going to be good enough, because she was like amazing, right? Just amazing. So I can't compare myself to that because that worked for her, but I know it would shut me down real fast if I tried to like go straight in at that pace. Because I found a handout of hers a couple of weeks ago, and it had like 20 classes on it over the course of just 2 months. It's a lot, but she was a badass, to say the least, so she could handle it. Anyway, so then they give you more tips on the class preparation. So you have the one-on-one preparation and then the class preparation here. It's great. And again, if you have someone hosting a class for you, this is the information that they need. It gives you a little timeline here, so you kind of know what to do when. Really love that. And I think that's pretty much it from this one that I want to go over. There are, like, this is more in depth when you're ready to do the presentation, some of the things. Like, here's follow-up support, what you say afterwards, because, obviously not everybody's going to purchase. And so you need to know what to say to follow up on that. And then the people who do purchase, you also need to know what to follow up and say with that. So it's all right here. And then I'll just show you the last page because it's there and it's helpful. There's not anything to write out on this page, but it does break down just the real simple aspects of the business. So when someone is brand new, these are the only 2 bonuses that they're going to get. This is the only ones that you could get like right away. So that's all they really need to know. They don't need to know that we get paid 6 different ways and you can get all 6 at one time and all that kind of stuff. They don't need to know that. I mean, you don't even need to know that. I didn't know that for years. I was getting the bonus and still didn't even know what it was coming from. So you could do this without knowing all of that. That's my point. But for a host, it breaks the simple things down in a visual way that, they can just kind of look at it and either it makes sense or it doesn't, and they can ask questions. Okay, so that is the share guide, and then I'm going to come over here to this and talk about this for just a couple minutes. So we've talked about the scripts that are on call number 5. So the first 4 calls are just about preparing your names list. See how we talked about creating that list? So on this guide, you have 20 spots for names. And then it goes through how to rank the names so you can figure out who to talk to first. And this is talking about a list of 100 names, but you can still apply this to the 20 if you want. And then creating a plan. So this is where you're deciding if it's going to be better to reach out to them via phone call, text, or social media. And then, of course, a class or a one-on-one. And if you don't know a class or a one-on-one, you don't know it. That's fine. So then here's some scripts for how to start that conversation. And this is where, practice is really the only thing that's going to make this part easier. And so I would like to create an opportunity for us to do that more. So if we have time today, we can do that, or we can, pick it up next week, or even, separate from these calls altogether, if that time doesn't work for somebody. So then I want to jump down to the 6th call and kind of show you how the next phase of it. So call number 6 is about sampling and explaining the value in it. And it talks about taking your time in the preparation period because, you got to prepare, obviously, but you don't want to rush through it. And I like this. The more contacts you have with a person before they are asked to make a buying decision, the more likely they are to purchase essential oils and want you to build the business with you. So listening to this call will really help to instill confidence in you about what you're doing, that you're doing it right, you're doing it for the right reasons, and here's some tips for how and why to do it better. And so then you go to the 7th call, and this is going to talk more about sampling and why we sample, how to prepare. And she gives you exactly, literally, it even says, do not tweak anything. Like, she gives you the whole recipe. And you're going to end up putting your own icing on the cake anyway. So just following her guidelines will give you a great result. And so the next several calls are about sampling. So I don't know about you guys, but you probably have been sampling and are still sampling. So some of this you're not going to be able to apply to people because you've already sampled them, but you can always give them another sample. You can always follow up and say, hey, we haven't talked in a while. I know I gave you a sample of Digestin a while back. How did that work for you? And if they are going back to what to do in different situations, if they said they never tried it, there's suggestions for that. So when I'm on the phone, I have these guides in front of me the whole time. I mean, without question, because I'm using them, even though I'm able to say these things somewhat relaxed, it makes me less stressed out to have that paper in front of me. So I like to have it. Okay. And the 8th call is about delivering the sample and setting expectations. And what's so great about this is this script right here. I'm going to read it. The whole thing. The call number 8, I'm going to read the script. So it says, deliver the sample in person or send it in the mail. You may include a couple of samples for one ailment, or if you are mailing them, just tell them to only use one at a time. And I like that she specifically says for one ailment. You may be tempted to be like, oh, you have 3 things going on, so I'm going to send you one for each. But if you get it wrong, then what? You're going to mail them more? Probably not. And it's just not, it's really easier to get a result if you focus on one thing. So if it's breathing issues, you can give them, a little bit of breathe to put in a diffuser, or if they don't have a diffuser, put a couple drops like on their pillow and on their chest. And then if that doesn't work, I know from personal experience that thyme oil on the bottoms of the toes, especially if used in conjunction with breathe on the chest, knocks out snoring. Maybe not 100% and maybe not the first time, but after repeated use, I have always had results. So those are 2 different samples that I can give them, and we can get a result. Almost guaranteed. I mean, I'm never going to guarantee it, but I'll say it's always worked in the past for people. Okay, so anyway, that's why you would want to focus on one ailment. It says what you need: a sample of the essential oil you feel will be most effective, and then a quick reference guide book for them to give them for free. And this will help them with learning about the oils. It will help them with using their oils. And it also does something kind of cool as serving as a reminder to use the oil. So giving them that guidebook, and they're not likely to throw it away. Whereas if you give them a little piece of paper on how to use that oil, eventually it will get lost or they'll throw it away. Whereas that book, it's a much more valuable, right? Okay, so I'm gonna read this to you. It says, essential oils are similar to medication in this way. When you have an ailment and you go to the doctor and receive a prescription, and if you use it and it doesn't work, you usually don't think to yourself, I'm never going to try medication again because it's all useless. What you think is, that medication didn't work well for my body, so I need to go back to the doctor and ask him for something different. We have been programmed this way. We understand that medications affect people differently. Essential oils are similar in the fact that each oil is not going to have the exact same effect on every single person. If you use an oil and don't get the results you're looking for, that's okay. We can try something else. If you're patient enough with essential oils like you are, and I like that it capitalizes essential oils because it's a noun and you can plug in the name of the oil and it still works really, the sentence still flows. If you're patient enough with digestion, like you are with medication, we will find something that is safer, cheaper, and more effective for you. Sounds great, right? And what's funny is that the more you practice this, you will find yourself saying, essential oils are safer, cheaper, and more effective. And it just like comes out. Whereas at first I used to be like, oh my God, I can't say that. It sounds so weird. But it's true. You say things like that all the time. Oh, I love that movie because it was fun, it was long, and it had my favorite actor in it. Right? You just like rattle it off and it just comes out naturally. So the next piece, this is really important. You are setting the expectation, not only with if it doesn't work, what we're going to do, what does it look like when you use it? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. When you get into bed tonight, rub a few drops of this Serenity oil onto your temples and graze your pillow with your fingertips. As you lay down and take slow, deep breaths, you'll feel a wonderful calm come over you. You should feel more relaxed and you should sleep better. But remember, if you don't get the results you're hoping for, we can try something else. And you can give them the story about, like, for some people, vetiver is very, very, very relaxing and sends them into a very deep sleep. Others, and I think I'm one of those people, I'm starting to realize, it actually is very invigorating. So I tried to improve my sleep routine again the other day. I've tried this so many times, I can't believe it took me this long to get here. But I put vetiver on the bottoms of just a little, like half a drop, right? On the bottom of my big toe. Took me 3 hours to fall asleep last night. And I don't have that much, I mean, I have trouble falling asleep sometimes, but never like that. It's actually worse than if I hadn't used it at all. But the only way to know that is to try it. So you can give people that, like some people are more sensitive to certain oils. And if you are more sensitive to something like lavender or vetiver that actually does the opposite of what it does for most people, you may be somebody who would benefit more from like a wild orange or jasmine or cedarwood or juniper berry. All of those are really great sleep oils. So what I learned last night is that I need to come up with a new sleep blend because it's not working as well as it should. And Serenity has vetiver in it. So Serenity might be not working as well for me because it's conflicting in my body. Okay, so back to the script. But remember, if you don't get the results you're hoping for, we can try something else. I'll call you in 2 days to see how it goes. Around when is the best time to call? And then it says, give them an essential oil quick reference guide and explain how to use it. So you just say, look up the ailment or look up the oil. Usually those guidebooks have some actual educational information about oils in general, like the 3 ways to use oils or how to tell if an oil is safe for internal use. A lot of that is in these guidebooks, so you can actually use that as a teaching tool when you're on the phone. You can say, go to page 3, see that? Go to page 9, you see that? I want to make sure you know how to use this book. And then like Janet's friend, they'll probably find themselves pulling that out of their purse when they're waiting in line somewhere and learning, because it's convenient and easy. So I'm going to shut up now and listen to any questions that y'all have, and then we can talk about classes. So how's that?
Thanks, Britt. That was wonderful. I liked how it flowed, and thanks for bringing me back to the share guide. I didn't know how powerful it was either. And while we were talking, I thought of 3 customers I already have, and I'm sure they're overwhelmed. They've bought a lot of things and they don't ask. So it's back to the service oil calls and a follow-up on that one. I think it was last week I shared about it. And that personalized text message I sent to a customer, and I heard what you said about, well, we'll see if she read it because her LRP will change. And it did. So it worked. I went in and I saw that it changed a little. I had no expectation. I was doing my job, and that's the best thing for me to remember. I'm doing the job I told them I would do. Whether they accept it or not, I'm not in charge of that. And it brings me back to my story. Angela didn't live here. She lived in New Mexico. She reached out and I wasn't ready. And then all of a sudden, how everything lined up. I was in Tennessee of all things. and walked into a hotel where I was staying, and that's where doTERRA planted themselves, and they were doing one of their class educations about the oils. And it's just like, I wonder if I should do this. And that was 3 years after I'd already had the product. So I like what you said about how many times you can sample somebody or drop on somebody, and it works. And what I thought was really affirming is that was an intuitive thought. I personalized it for her, but I could take her name out of it and fill in the blanks with special ailments that I knew somebody may be experiencing, or ask what's happening. How can I help you with your health goals? So this is very affirming. Both of the scripts were, and I will say I haven't done the mentor calls, but I will commit to doing the next one.
Cool. That's great. I love that. That's all you can do is commit to take one step, one action. And once you get to that, feels good, you can keep going. You kind of get that momentum through that process. That's great. You said that she changed her LRP. So out of, I think you recommended 4 things. You said she actually purchased a couple of those.
Yes. I recommended 3 things, so she got 2 of the 3.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they probably might be sold out of the citrus bloom lotion anyway.
Yes, and that is one of the things she got. So it was pretty cool.
Cool. That's great. That feels good too. You're like, even though she didn't respond and affirm you directly, you were able to go and gather that affirmation on your own and know that it worked. And a lot of times it's not that obvious that what you did was effective. And then sometimes you can ask, did you get my text? And they still may not respond to you. Or they might say, oh yeah, I ordered the things you da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, oh, cool. So you just kind of have to be confident in a lot of sense. And then, if you're not sure about something, bring it to us. Like we did, like Becky, she brought it, shared that with us. And we were able to say, that was great. Even though she didn't get a response, we were able to validate that what she did was great. So I think that's the value of this community. We get to do that for each other. Any other thoughts or questions?
I just wanted to jump in and say, I really appreciate you going over all this stuff, because that's the basics. It's just great to see it and to hear it all again, and because I just need to work on it. I need to work a lot harder on it. And so it's right where I'm at. And I really appreciate it. And I'd love to, Brittany, do that with you. I'll call you if you can do that lifestyle overview. And I have to go because I'm going to go do my client. So I just wanted to say thank you, and great seeing all you guys. And I'll see you next week.
Have a great day. Thanks, Patrice. I'm here for you too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
I'm hoping that she's okay with it, because I'm going to ask her if I can record it. And if any of y'all want to, do the same thing, I would love to practice on you, because I need to practice too. Cool. What else? Quiet. Oh, Janet, when did you get in here?
I thought of 2 people that I need to follow up with that my daughter mentioned to me, and I hadn't even, it just went right out of my mind. But now that we're talking about it, I thought of it again, and I'm going to sample them.
Oh, great. Awesome. Okay. Well, and if you, like I said, if you want to practice, go ahead. What'd you say?
So that'll be one action.
There you go.
Action.
Taking that one step forward. That's great. Okay. So if there's no other questions, is there something that y'all want to do? Like I can turn off the recording and we can practice some scripts, or we can kind of go poke around and look at the team app if anybody wants to get more familiar with that. I'm trying to think of what else I have on the list.
Brittany, I have a question. I did look at the team app yesterday, and I am so curious as to what happened with the shampoo.
Oh no, right?
What in the hell?
I think it's a sourcing issue, because, okay, so y'all know we as dōTERRA-ites, I guess, we're picky. we like to use premium ingredients and premium products. And so with all of the shipping issues of different products that we, probably ingredients that we get from internationally, a lot of that is having issues getting here. And I think that's all it is it's just sourcing the ingredients, because we're picky. We like premium stuff. We can't just go grab something from down the way. I'm sure the ingredients are being sourced from places that are having trouble getting access, or maybe even, maybe it's made in China and the factories in China are closed right now because of coronavirus. I really don't know exactly, but I believe it's a sourcing of the ingredients issue, which is unfortunate because I haven't used a different shampoo in like 5 years, but I do have some, so I should be good. But I hope they come back with it soon. But the fact that they took it all together off of LRPs, does everybody know what she's talking about? I'll just tell you just in case. dōTERRA made an announcement, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that they are completely out of stock on the shampoo and conditioner products. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, they didn't have anything that sounded like we plan on having this resolved soon or anything like that. So it's definitely something that's not going to be changing in the immediate future. And the other thing that was really exciting in that, I think they did a good job of making sure to include something in there so we wouldn't be just like disappointed. You can now purchase.
Hey, Britt, you're coming in and out. Is anyone else here for coming in and out, or is it me?
Sorry.
We're fine.
I don't know. I'm sorry. But you can now use your points to get rose oil. It's 275 PV, which is, I haven't been willing to spend $275 on a bottle of rose. I'm good with my rose touch. But if I can use my points for it, I would like to have one on hand. So that's really exciting. I wish I could.
They do have the big shampoo and conditioner still available.
Why don't we go and look at the document here. Let's see. I think that's the older one. I'm trying to find the best place in my house to do the internet. To use the internet, and the box is right on the other side of that wall. So I should be having pretty good. Let's see. Do pretty good here. So there we go. So if you go onto the team app, across this bar at the top, you have some different buttons. And I think they're probably going to look different because I just changed some things. If you don't see it across this bar, there'll be a button right here that you can click, and it'll give you a menu of all the options. But we're looking at product availability. This is a PDF that dōTERRA sent out, and then I just added it here. And then you click view and it opens up. You can look at this on your phone as well, but it's talking about the change to how these things are. So these are, if you have it on your LRP already, it will remain there, but you can't go in and purchase it if it's not already on your LRP. And then that basically means they're almost out, and they basically only have enough to satisfy the LRP orders that already exist. And that's for the original bath bar, as well as the original bath bar 3-pack, and then the body butter. And we've run out of this body butter once already this year. So I'm guessing that is because of the sustainable sourcing that we do with the ingredients in that. Like, it has shea butter in it, which I know is a crop that is hard to get to be sustainably sourced. And so that's going to be one of the things that runs out first, right? And that may be true for some of the ingredients in the shampoo as well. So it says items that have been turned off for sales, meaning if it is on your LRP, it's off. It's not there anymore. So if you are depending on the shampoo to keep your LRP at 100 so that you can get paid, it's off, and your LRP is not at 100 anymore, and you need to go in and change that. So we've got the little spray bottles that are the size of the hand sanitizer, as well as those awesome continuous mist bottles. I don't have one in this room, but it's the spray. I think they're like 2 for $12, and that you can like kind of pump it, and it'll just keep spraying. And I think you can even turn it upside down, and it'll still work because it has a bag in there that just gets smaller as the product goes away. I love those. I have probably 6 of those around my house. I love them. And you can peel the label off so it's clear. If you don't like the purple, you can have something that's more like minimal looking if you like. They're sold out of those right now, but they'll come back, I'm sure. And I believe you can also find them on Amazon, unless they're sold out there as well. But then to the shampoo is gone. The 2-pack of shampoo is gone. The shampoo and conditioner bundle is gone. And then the hair care system, basically everything that has the shampoo in it. So I guess you can still get the conditioner for now. It says, please note, these items will be removed from LRP templates. Any affected members will be notified by email of this change. Please be sure to tell your team members to check the PV on their LRP templates if this affects them. But they just made this announcement, like I think the day before yesterday. So I need to go through my back office and look at people's LRP. And the easiest way to tell that this is an issue is if somebody normally has 100 LRP and now they don't. That's the easiest, because you can't see what someone has saved on their template, right? But you can look at what the projected PV is and be able to kind of work from there and just kind of conversation. And then at the bottom, it says, we're so excited to announce that you are now able to redeem your points for the 5 ml of Rose. So $275 or 275 points. So I guess they like to deal the bad news with some good news. I'm gonna close that. Is there anything else in here? Okay. I'm going to, wait, somebody saying something?
Oh, no, it's 8:01, so I need to skedaddle.
All right, I'm going to turn off this recording.